Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast, to the first episode of the podcast. I'm Maja, an aspiring psychologist with a degree in psychology, and now in my third year of working in the mental health field. If you're a psychology student or a graduate wondering how to actually become a clinical psychologist, you're in the right place. In this podcast, I share my journey, practical tips, insights, and everything else they don't teach you in your psychology undergrad. My goal is to make this career path clearer and more accessible for you. So if that sounds helpful, keep listening, and I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so today's episode is all about why I want to become a psychologist. And this might be useful for you if you're questioning whether psychology is right for you, whether it's the right career path, whether it's the right degree to study, and what key things to look for to answer those questions. So I'll talk about my experience. I'll also talk about some doubts that I personally have and that you might have that are holding you back. Okay, so just a little bit of background about me and where my interest in psychology kind of started. So growing up, when I was around 5, I moved to the UK from Poland and started school when I was 6 without knowing the language. And I was very quiet, very shy. I was practically mute for the first 3 years of my school life, which was really difficult. And even though at the start it was because I didn't understand the language and I felt like I couldn't communicate with anyone because I didn't know the language. Eventually I understood a bit more. You know, when you're young child, you kind of soak in languages quicker. So I was starting to understand a lot, but I still felt like I couldn't break that barrier of communicating with people and, well, my peers. And I kind of got used to the idea that I was the quiet one, and I felt like my peers also got used to that. I felt like I didn't have the social skills that my peers had. So that was very difficult for me. And then eventually I pushed myself to get out of my comfort zone, to learn those skills, to try and communicate with my peers and play with them. And I really came out of my shell eventually. And then in secondary school, I had a close group of friends, and then at uni and in my job, which took a long time to get there. But kind of looking back at that little girl, I really admire how far I've come. You know, the fact that I was able to pick up these social skills and learn the language, and just looking at how much my mind has evolved throughout those years is pretty incredible. And so I think that's where my interest in the human mind really started. It started from looking at how my own mind has evolved. I grew up to be a lot more confident, to have healthy relationships and friendships. I learned all those nuances in social interactions, like humor and building trust with someone, which are all really important skills. So the first reason why I want to become a psychologist is because I am so curious about the human mind, and I love trying to find answers to questions like, how do our childhood experiences impact our adult life and relationships? And how much of that can we actually change? And why do people develop anxiety or depression? Or where does our personality come from? All these questions, I've always been very curious about them. I think that's a key thing to look out for, just whether you're interested by those questions that I mentioned, whether you have this urge to find out more, to go off and do your own research, or just read a bit about it. So that's the first thing. Just whether you're somewhat interested in the human mind, human behavior, and those questions about why we behave the way we do, or why we think or feel the way we do. There's the key kind of questions to ask yourself. And the second point, I have four points about why I want to become a psychologist. So the second one is the depth of connection that you get with clients that you help in psychology. A lot of people that go into care professions, their main reason is because they want to help people, and that is very important. You want to have that kind of empathy and compassion and that desire to help someone feel better about themselves, or help them out of a really difficult situation. But I feel like you can get that in a lot of healthcare professions. But what's different about psychology is how deep your connection is with the patient or the client, the person you're supporting. You get to know them on much deeper levels than you would as when you're treating like a physical health condition, maybe like as a doctor or a nurse or all these other very important but different professions. I feel like in psychology you really get to know the person on a different level. You get to uncover parts of them that they might have not have known even existed themselves. You might go into their childhood and trauma and, very personal parts of themselves. And that's kind of something that I really enjoy. So if you find that you do enjoy having those conversations where you get to know someone, like get to know their past and what they're afraid of, what their triggers are, and you're not afraid to ask those questions, and you're not afraid to know the answers to those questions, then psychology might be a good route for you. And then the third reason, which is kind of related to connection with your client, is challenging your own self. Because I think that in a therapeutic relationship, you will be forced to question your own belief systems, to question what you know, to question your own triggers and your own past experiences and your values, and all the things that have shaped you into who you are. I think a big part of that will come out in a therapeutic relationship. So I also want to challenge myself. I'm curious about what kind of mechanisms are in my mind that are maybe holding me back from making the most of life, of holding me back from having really healthy relationships. And I'm always trying to question why I make the decisions that I do, and I think that curiosity about your own self is really important, because I think if you want to provide mental health care and help someone else with their mental health, you also have to be open to and be willing to work on your own mental health, work on your own self. And yeah, I think that's really important. And if you're kind of curious about your own self-development and evolving into becoming a better person yourself and learning more about the intricacies of who you are, and your own mind, then yeah, psychology might be for you. And the final reason why I want to become a psychologist is because I think that life is beautiful and the world has so much to offer. And I think it's hard to enjoy life when you have all these coping mechanisms from trauma keeping you on alert all the time, or you have additional advantages, or something really shit has happened to you, something really negative. You've maybe been really unlucky with the people around you, or you've made mistakes in the past that you're not proud of. All these things are kind of at the back of your mind, and they're really holding you back from really enjoying life, being present in the moment, and really cultivating relationships in your life and reaching your goals and just helping you become the best version of you. I just want to help people make the most of life and what this amazing world has to offer. You know, I just think if you're not able to be in the present moment and be able to appreciate those little moments in life and your connections in life, then, you know, I feel like it's such a shame, and it's almost like a life wasted if you go your entire life being held back from doing those things and from appreciating those things. So yeah, I want to help other people enjoy life. So those are my key reasons that make me want to be a psychologist. And if you relate to any of those, if any of those resonate with you, then keep listening, and maybe this path is for you. I don't know. I can't answer those questions for you. But I think if you've clicked on this video and there's an inkling in you that is making you want to go down this path, then maybe try it. Okay, I also want to talk about some doubts that I have, because it's not all, you know, sunshine and rainbows, and I don't just love everything about psychology at all times, because that's not realistic. So I think it's important to talk about these things as well. So first of all, imposter syndrome. We've probably all heard this term on the internet. It's just everywhere now. But yeah, it's very relevant for me personally, and it might be for you. I'm constantly questioning, like, would I actually be a good psychologist, a good therapist? I feel like it's a big responsibility to take on, to kind of, you know, if someone comes to you with their deepest fears, their deepest issues, and, you know, they're going through a lot of negative, traumatic things in their life, and they're trusting you to, you know, be vulnerable and open, and they're really hoping that you'll help them. I feel this sort of fear and panic, and I question constantly whether I'd be the right person for this client, for this person, whether I'll actually be able to help them. And that kind of fear of failing to help people is very much real. Even now when I'm working, I'm kind of supporting children with learning disabilities. And yeah, sometimes I'm like, I don't actually know if I'm qualified to support you. But the truth is, sometimes you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to problem solve, and a lot of the times it's better if you don't try to. I mean, if you've ever had a friend come to you with a problem, and if you've been like me before, where you try to come up with a solution straight away, more often than not it backfires, and they don't actually want to hear your solutions. They just want you to be there to listen, to validate their feelings and their experiences. Of course, it's important to have strategies, evidence-based treatments to really make those changes in people's lives. But that's something that you'll learn, and you won't get right the first time, the first few times. And that's okay. It's okay if you feel like you don't always know how to help someone, or what the best thing to do or to say is. And I'm kind of learning to accept that, because it will all come with time, with experience. And everyone is kind of different anyway. Everyone has a different style and way of helping people, and it might not work for everyone. So if you have that kind of doubt in your mind of, would I be good enough? Would I actually be able to help people? What if I don't know what to do? That's okay. That is your imposter syndrome speaking. As long as you have that desire to help people, you'll be fine. So don't let that kind of imposter syndrome get in the way of you pursuing psychology if it's something that you want to do. And another thing that I wanted to address is that you don't have to find every area of psychology interesting. If you're currently studying psychology, and you're thinking, I hate stats, I don't like learning about research methods, or I don't know, maybe you don't like social psychology, or maybe cognitive neuroscience. You're just like, this is all waffle to me, I don't understand it. That's okay. You don't have to find every part of psychology interesting. I definitely don't. I mean, me and research methods don't get along, even though I enjoy learning about research, and I find, like listening to different results interesting, and like, all those big studies that have found something like revolutionary, I think, oh my God, this is really cool. But do I enjoy the entire research process and, writing the methods section and doing the analysis on SPSS? Absolutely not. I don't. But yeah, I think it's just important to bear in mind that it's not all glamorous, and there are parts of every job that you're not going to enjoy, but it's just kind of something that has to be done. Like report writing, for example. It might not be your favorite thing in the world, and that's okay. It's just kind of whether you're able to kind of accept that as part of the job, and whether you're willing to put up with it. Because if you're kind of like, I don't want to have anything to do with research or writing reports or anything like that, then maybe psychology isn't for you, because that is a part of it. It's a part of studying it, and it's a part of the job. It's just something to bear in mind. And as long as you find some areas of psychology interesting, then that's good enough. So yeah, those are the kind of doubts that I wanted to address that you might have, that shouldn't hold you back from pursuing psychology if you have those key things. So the key kind of takeaways that I would say are most important, the 3 key things, are being interested in the human mind, wanting to learn more about it, and the second thing is wanting to make a difference in people's lives. Just having that urge to help people, and you feel this sense of it's rewarding for you to help others. And the third point is you're willing to be introspective, and you're curious about your own journey, your own mind, and your own mental health. So if you've gone through all of that and you're thinking, yeah, I want to do psychology, I want to study psychology, and I want to potentially become a clinical psychologist or a different psychologist one day, then maybe this podcast is for you. So in this podcast, I will be talking about what makes a good psychologist. This is a question that I'm constantly asking myself. So I want to share whatever I learn on my journey with you. Any skills that I pick up, from any conversations that I have from this work experience that I'm gaining. If you want to hear more about what makes a good psychologist, what skills do we actually need? Because they don't teach you this in your undergrad in psychology. You learn all the theory, which is great. You have all this knowledge, but in practice, what makes a good psychologist? And then we'll also talk about some practical tips. So application advice for your doctorate, for your assistant psychologist posts, or any kind of jobs related to mental health and care, and key things that you need to know about that. And then finally, we'll also be doing some episodes on self-development, how to become a reflective practitioner, how to take care of your own mental health, how to introspect, and what you want to learn about yourself in order to be a good therapist, a good psychologist. So that's kind of what this podcast will be about. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. I hope you stick around, and yeah, I will speak to you in the next episode. Bye.